Most people think creating an animated film takes a full studio, a huge budget, and years of production. But today, I'm going to show you how to take a simple story idea and turn it into an animated film. We're going to use AI and automation to help you do this so you can do it a lot faster without needing a full production team. This is not just AI random images. I'm talking about a real process from idea to script to visual beats that turns into storyboard images, and then those get turned into the videos. My name is Isaac, also known as Tut AI. I created this account for one purpose, and that is to show you how to create your own animated shows and films using AI and automation to 10x your creation process. This process took me years to figure out, but once you understand the structure, you can start doing these parts in hours, sometimes in minutes. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through the very first part of the workflow. For this example, I'm going to start with something very simple, a simple concept. So I put the idea into ChatGPT and let it create a draft 0. Here's my prompt to ChatGPT. Create a script about a boy named Malik Carter who has survived for years without family or money, and then he receives an instant cashback system where every dollar Malik spends returns 100x instant cashback. Very simple, very generic. This is where a lot of people make a mistake. They expect the first output to be perfect. At the beginning, you are not trying to create the final version. You're trying to get the raw idea out of your head onto paper. That is draft 0. It's not a final script. So I use ChatGPT as a tool to get the idea moving. Once ChatGPT has given me a first script, I read through it, I edit it, and I start asking questions, right? What's missing? Who are the characters? Where does the story take place? What makes the main character interesting? What emotional hooks are there? What does the audience need to feel in the first few minutes? Edit your script, go back and forth to ChatGPT, and use it as a sounding board. Spar against ChatGPT. Ask it to add certain things. That back and forth process turns the generic idea into something way stronger. Eventually, this story became Cashback Prince. That's the first major lesson. Do not let ChatGPT replace your taste. You are still the creator, you are still the author. AI can speed up the process, but it cannot care about the story more than you do. You have to actually guide it. So read your story, shape it. That's how the story improves. Read it. The second part is to essentially turn your rough idea into a real script. After I had my rough version, I realized something. Going back and forth manually was useful, but it was also starting to take too long. And this is over different kinds of stories, right? Since I've done this many, many times. And so I started building a better system. I talk to people who write for a living, people who understand the story structure. Some of my friends happen to write stories for a living, so that worked out for me. Some have even written for some of the biggest movies out there. Think big names like Shrek the movie, The Dark Knight, the Superman movie. I started asking them, where should I be including in my stronger screenplay? The answer was not just make it sound better. The answer was structure. That I needed to know whose point of view is the story from? Who are the primary players? What is the function of the scene? What emotion is driving the moment, the conflict? What is the audience supposed to understand? As suggested by my friends, I started adding a story spine at the very top of my stories. This give me a way to visually see the whole story from a bird's eye point of view. Now I'm not just writing scenes randomly. Every scene has a job that matters. Now, for 80% of you, this is good enough. Simply use ChatGPT to go back and forth, edit, and that will do the job. For me, I like to get deep into the weeds. And so I went further and created what I call my Hollywood script system prompt. A system prompt is basically the instruction set for an AI. It tells the AI what role it's supposed to play, what rules to follow, what format to use, what kind of output I want. Instead of saying, make this better, I give the AI a complete framework. The system prompt tells it to format the story like a real screenplay. That means slug lines, action lines, character dialogue, scene structure, visual clarity, emotional progress, a clear beginning, a middle, and an end inside of each scene. So instead of me constantly explaining the same thing over and over, the system prompt holds the rules for me. Then I just paste in my story idea or the summary, and it knows what to do. Now, the output is much better. And again, I still have to read and edit it. I still have to make sure it still fits my taste. AI is not going to know your taste. But I'm only doing one, maybe two reads throughout these stories now because of these system prompts. The third part is to save the scriptwriter as a ChatGPT project. Right. So now technically you could just copy and paste the system prompt every single time. And that's what I was doing at the beginning. You could open a document, copy the prompt, paste it in ChatGPT, and then paste your story underneath it. That works. It works. But after doing that enough times, it becomes annoying. You start wasting time looking for the prompt. You start forgetting which versions is the latest. You start rebuilding the same workflow every time. And so I took the system prompt and turned it into a ChatGPT project. This can also be called an AI agent. So inside ChatGPT, you can create a project and give it a custom instructions. So I created one and called it scriptwriter. Inside of that project, I pasted my Hollywood scriptwriter system prompt. That's the big prompt I was telling you about earlier. Now, every time I want to create or rewrite a script, I don't have to paste the big prompt again. I just go into the project and give it my story idea. That's it. All right. So we can take the exact same idea from before. Create a script about a boy named Malik who survived for years without family or money, blah, blah, blah. Same idea. Paste it in. And because the project already has instructions in the background, it knows what I want the script to be formatted like. It gives me the story spine. It gives me the story spine. It gives me the slug lines. It gives me the scene structure. It gives me a cleaner screenplay format. That saves so much mental energy. You have no idea. And this is important because if you are creating a full animated movie or show, your biggest enemy is not just time. It's that mental load. Think about it this way. You have to keep track of the story, the character, visuals, the prompts, images, videos, audios, editing, consistency, etc., etc., etc. Moving on. So step 4, part 4. This is where you're turning your script into visual beats, right? So once the script is actually ready, your script is now in the right formats. It has the slug lines. It's Hollywood ready, let's say, right? This is the part where we go from writing like a great author to thinking like a director, a movie director, from writing to visualization, right? AKA images. And a script is not enough to generate consistent images, right? We know that. The script is written for performance and story, but an image model needs visual direction. It needs to know what moment to actually freeze, to capture as an image. That's where the beats come in. We turn the script into a visual story beats. A story beat is a specific moment that moves the story forward. It could be an action, it could be an emotional shift, it could be a decision, it could be a new visual moment. For an example, in the story that we're using here, when Malik meets his sister, Aaliyah, at a cafe, that scene might have multiple beats. Let's say beat 1 would be Malik walks into the cafe and Aaliyah recognizes him. Beat 2 would be Malik sits across from her, guarded, and is suspicious of her. Beat 3 would be Aaliyah explains that he might be her brother and Malik rejects the idea. Beat 4 would be Malik now accepts the idea and starts to leave, right? You capture that whole scene into these beats. Those are not all separate scenes, right? They are all smaller moments inside of that scene. And each of those moments can be represented as an image. Now you can do this the simple way. You can paste your script into ChatGPT and say, turn this into visual beats. And for 80% of you out there, that is actually good enough, right? You're good. Just take your story, flop it in ChatGPT and say, turn this into visual beats, and it will do it. But you're going to have to do that over and over and over again for each story that you want to write or for each scene that you want to separate and work on separately. So I created another system prompt called the Visual Beat Engine. The Visual Beat Engine takes an act or a scene and breaks it down into image generation ready beats. Each beat includes the setting, the characters present, the emotion or the tone, the visual action, and an image prompt that can be copied into an image model like Nano Banana, or in this case, ChatGPT's image 2. That's the one we're using here with ChatGPT. The goal is simple here. Take a written scene and turn it into a clean visual prompt. Because we're not just writing anymore, we are preparing to generate images, and those images will eventually become the storyboard. Let's recap what we've just learned. Part one, your story is the most important thing out there, because if you don't have a good story, you won't have a good movie and no one will want to watch your movie. So before you think about the images of the video, make sure your story is good enough that people will want to see it. Go back and forth with ChatGPT to make it that good and actually turn it into a script. Part two is turn the rough idea into a real script. So once you have something that people can read, the next step is giving it structure so it actually works like a film scene. Use the system prompt that I've linked below, the scriptwriter. So instead of going back and forth with ChatGPT, this speeds up the process and provides a quality script. All right. Part three is you want to save time. You want to save the script as a ChatGPT project or an AI agent. Right? The goal here is to stop repeating the same instructions and turn your best writing process into a reusable AI agent that you can just come back to again and again. And then the last part that we just gone through was part four, which is turn the script into visual. This uses the Visual Beat Engine to break your story into ready-to-use prompts for visualizing your story via images. Very simple. All right, the next part. I also created a ChatGPT project or an AI agent for the Visual Beat Engine. That way, I don't have to paste the whole Visual Beat Engine prompt every single time. I just open the project, paste the act or the scene, and ask it to break it into beats. Here's what we've put in. Give me the beats for only the first scene. Don't do all of them. And it should break all those into clear visual beats for you. Now, sometimes ChatGPT will still mess up. Sometimes it will give you too much. Sometimes it will ignore parts of your instruction. That's normal. You have to just correct it. That's a part of working with AI. You are directing the tool. But once the Visual Beat Engine is working, the process becomes very fast. Now I can go from a script, turn that into scenes, turn that into beats, and then these beats are now ready to paste image prompts. Because that's a part of what our agent does. It turns these beats into prompts. It gives you the prompt that you can use to directly generate the image. All right, let's move on. Next part is to convert your beats into the scene images. Now that I have my beats, I can use them to create the images. This is where the process starts to actually feel real. For each beat, I take the image prompt and I use it with my character reference. For an example, let's take the very first scene. This is how you prevent character consistency issues. Because if you just generate each image from scratch, Malik might look different every time. Reference images help solve that problem. And so the process is take the visual beat, copy the image prompt into ChatGPT, take the character reference, and then repeat that for each beat. Now you are building a visual storyboard, one image at a time. And once you have your storyboard, the whole project becomes easier to understand. You can show other people. It becomes something that you can even start to read out loud, show the story for. You can see the movie before you animate it. You can see what is working. You can see if the emotion is right. You can see if the shot is too boring. That is why I do this before jumping straight into the video. Video generation is more expensive and it's harder to control, and images are just way faster. So images let you test the scenes first. So before I generate videos, I want to know the visual direction that's actually working. Now, there are two image formats that I want to show you, right? This is kind of like the bonus part. The first is the normal image of the scene. That's what we just went through. This is just the one cinematic frame, right? The example we had was of Malik walking through the downtown Atlanta at night. There it is. Rain on the pavement, blah, blah. This gives you one strong visual. But then I sometimes go a bit further again, right? I create a 4x1 image. A 4x1 image is basically 4 panels in one image. It shows different angles and moments from the same scene. That gives me options. It helps me with pacing. So the normal image gives me the main visual, and the 4x1 version gives me a mini storyboard. This is how I start building out the scene visually before moving into the video generation. That is it. So let's recap the entire process because that was a lot, right? So step 0, you start with a rough idea. For me, it was Malik Carter, the boy with no family, no money, who receives an instant cashback system, right? Rough idea. This gets the story out of your head. And now that the story is out of your head, step 2 is to go back and forth with ChatGPT. You add the details, the names, the emotional context, the world. You make sure your story is actually good enough so that other people can give you feedback on it. Step 3 is to use a Hollywood scriptwriter system prompt. This is where our AI agent came into play. This turns your rough story idea into a more structured screenplay format, something that's used by the big leagues. Step 4, you save that system prompt as a GPT AI agent. Now that you have this, you have a repeatable system, you are preventing mental load, you're reducing your mental load and having to go on this journey of having to create your own film. And you do that by turning your scriptwriter prompt into an AI agent. Step 5 is you take the script and break it into visual beats. This is where you go from a great writer to a great director, using visual storyboards one beat at a time. You use the visual beat engine. Again, this was that massive prompt where we feed that in ChatGPT, and each beat should represent a clear visual moment. Then you take those moments and you turn them into image generation ready prompts. And now you can save the visual beat engine inside your ChatGPT as a project or an AI agent that is repeatable. You have an AI agent that turns your scripts into visual beats for you. And you can do this with any stories that you end up coming up with. If you change your story or if you just want to go scene by scene. Step 6 is to take each beat, add your character references, and generate a storyboard image or storyboard images. It's easier to preview the scene as a normal image. And if needed, right, you can go do the 4x1 board panels, but don't worry about that yet. This is the foundation. From there, the next step would be turning those images into videos. But I don't want to overwhelm you. I've already covered a lot. The main thing I wanted you to understand is this. The magic is not in one prompt. The magic is the workflow, the story idea, the script, visual beats, storyboard images, and then you get the video. Companies have just been selling you all of this crap, right? The AI is going to replace all of the Hollywood. It's like, no, it's not. What it's going to do is going to make the people who learn to use AI are going to be the ones to go and replace other people who are not using AI. Because AI is not going to have your taste. It's not going to have your workflow, your entire workflow. And even once it gets to a point of having your workflow, your taste and the way that you direct it are super important, the way that you relate to humans. The structure is what makes the process repeatable. If you want me to go deeper into the image process, let me know in the comments. I can break down exactly how I create character references, how I create the normal scene images, how I use those to create the 4x1 storyboard images, and how I prepare those images for video generation. Also, if you want to hang out with me live, get in-depth explainers on the Hollywood scriptwriter prompt or the visual beat engine, and learn with other people who are building the same thing, join my school community. It's 100% free. It's a collective of people learning AI storytelling, filmmaking, automation, prompting, and production together. We've got beginners all the way up to people that work with Hollywood script writing experts. The point is simple. We are learning together and building together. The link is in the description if you want to go. I'll see you in the next video.